Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, katoa. Welcome everyone. I'm so pleased to see so many smiling faces on a Sunday afternoon here for our AGM. I'm going to ask Fian, our esteemed Chief Biking Officer, to read us a karakia to open the meeting.
Kia ora. I didn't know I was esteemed. That's very cool. I'm just going to read this karakia. Tū tawa mai I runga, tū tawa mai I raro, tū tawa mai I roto, tū tawa mai I waho, kia tau ai te mauri tū. Te mauri ora ki te katoa. Haumi e, hui e, tai ki e. Which means, come forth from above, come forth from below, come forth from within and from the environment. Vitality and well-being for all, strengthened in unity. And now for a quick spot of housekeeping. So there are bathrooms just out there if anyone needs the toilet. There is water in the kitchen. In the unlikely event of an emergency, we're all going to peacefully exit out that way and go round to the front out there. And thank you all for coming. If you're not a member, you're still absolutely welcome here. You just can't vote, that's all. And if you haven't signed in at the back, if you could do at some point, not necessarily right now. Thank you.
Just giving you a quick look at the agenda so you know what to expect for the afternoon. Now, before we move into the approval of minutes, I am going to read out some apologies. Barbara Cuthbert, Alex Dyer. We also have Phoebe Ball and Lucy Ruck, who are down at the Ghost Bike installation at the moment. And also Nadia, who helped them out, is unable to make it. We also have apologies from Rose Scott, Michael Roth, Christina Robertson, Kate Thompson, Vivian Naylor, Alison Anderson, Jolisa Gracewood, and Gabrielle Gatti, I don't think managed to make it. Thank you. Now, the minutes were circulated in a rather late email yesterday morning, so I'm hoping that there were some members who did get to have a look at them and that someone might offer to move that we accept the minutes from last year. And if I could see someone... Thank you, Christopher. Christopher Dempsey has said he will move that we approve the minutes. Is anyone prepared to second? Awesome. Thanks, Rebecca. This is my opportunity to share with you all the different work that has been happening in Bike Auckland since the last time we caught up, which was this time exactly last year. We have a new government. They've been around for about 12 months, and the public conversation has really changed. Now we're all concerned about the cost of everything. But I want to suggest to you that in the public sphere, cost isn't the key thing that matters, it's value. And in the case of Bike Auckland, we stand for a number of values, such as safety, accessibility, inclusivity, choice for everyone, and affordability is a factor. But it's also the context in which you view affordability. It's not just the cost. You need to frame it with a long-term view and a wide view that includes everybody. So the difficulty with measuring value is the payoff can take longer, much longer. And the achievement of these values-driven campaigns can be very hard to measure. But that doesn't mean we should just give up. I was heartened when I read this recently, written by Angus Harvey of Fix the News. He said, "I find myself returning to the lessons of South Africa. That change happened not because it was inevitable, but because people made it inevitable. Each step forward mattered, and people kept on believing in the right thing, even when that belief seemed foolish. In the end, the impossible happened, not because history ordained it, but because ordinary people kept pushing against the darkness until finally, impossibly, the light broke through. It feels like an impossible task at the moment, but we can't know the many and ongoing ripple effects of simply riding a bike, encouraging and supporting others to ride, and advocating for accessible and inclusive choice. This year we didn't give up, we dug in, we communicated our concerns, carried out so many submission drives, connected with aligned groups, activated an enthusiastic volunteer community, raising our profile and message in an increasingly noisy and fragmented public discourse. We're holding ongoing conversations with influencers, decision makers, councillors, a range of politicians, as well as connecting with the people living in Tamaki Makaurau and all across the Auckland region to understand their perspectives, needs and challenges. Spearheading this work is Fian and the crew. The campaign that we were working hard on last year, Liberate the Lane, has been ongoing. The crowdfunding campaign this time last year closed, raising $15,000 for bus backs and bus sides. And we saw them travelling across the bridge and around some city paths and roads in the summer. Fian and Richard Young, writer of the Smart Sense report about Liberate the Lane, did a wonderful presentation at the To Walk and To Cycle conference. It was a storytelling presentation and was very popular at the event. I was concerned to have someone say to me recently, "It's a shame the Liberate the Lane campaign isn't running anymore." And this is not the case. Until we have a way of riding a bike from the North Shore to the central city in a direct way at any time of the day or night, the campaign is not finished. However, we have capacity constraints and a pragmatic reality that the central government and Waka Kotahi are very unlikely to shift their current position right now. At the moment, it's for cars, trucks and buses. But you will see us flying the flag at events. Oh, I've missed pictures of Richard and myself at the conference. But we will see us flying the flag at events like the climate rally. We continue to raise the matter with the media when the opportunity arises and in our discussions with agencies and political leaders, and we're always looking for a window of opportunity to change the narrative. Our first inclusive cycling project culminated in the publication of the Inclusive Cycling Report 2023, compiled on the accessibility of 50 kilometres of Auckland cycleways. This report has been shared on our website with agencies and other interest groups to broaden their understanding of the challenges faced by people with different accessibility needs. That campaign has closed for the moment, but we are looking for opportunities to reinvigorate another version. This year's campaign focus has been on Cycling Works, which has a series of pledges that businesses make in a show of support for safer cycling infrastructure in Auckland. Over 50 businesses have signed up. However, even more have verbally agreed with the pledges. Where I've personally found the challenge is translating that commitment to get busy people to sign up has proved a tough proposition. However, some keen volunteers have found a way to get the attention of business owners in the same way as was done in London, handing out flyers to commuters on their way to work, to take to their employers and demand that they sign up. This works much better in overcoming the hurdle of form completion. Some of the focus on cycling works has had to be shared with responding to several other developments over the course of the year. It's been submission hell, really. Funding has been cut drastically to local councils and community initiatives, and not-for-profits have been hit hard. Cycling has borne the brunt of a new Transport Minister who has refused to acknowledge the evidence around safety and how mode shift can have positive impacts on transport affordability, health, community connections, and the environment. The short-term thinking and appeasement of a vocal bloc of national voters, deemed to represent a majority of New Zealanders, has been epitomised by the passing of the speed rule, which winds back street by street, school by school consultation carried out over years against wide-ranging international evidence. This morning we were in attendance at the Ghost Bike installation, representing cyclists' lives lost and the accompanying devastation these losses have wreaked on their families and friends. Those joining our bike ride after this event will have an opportunity to pay their respects. Projects are continuing as planned largely in the infrastructure space, at least those that are shovel-ready, so we will still see some action over the next 18 months. The concerning thing is what happens after that, given the government's propensity to shut down work streams with no plan to replace them. We're concerned that the funnel for new work is empty and there is no funding for new cycling projects. So the ramifications are still to be widely felt. However, our infrastructure team has been rebuilding over the past 2 years after some long-term key volunteers decided to step back and scale back their involvement. Phoebe has taken over the liaison with this committee, and we've had some bright new talent arrive, and it's looking like we will have a really strong team for the future. So the other crew that I'm going to talk about now, so Teva is in charge of bike burbs, which are all of our local groups all over the Tamaki Makaurau area, which is huge, so it's a massive task. Teva calls himself, and if I get this wrong, I'm sorry, the mycorrhizal fungi, the underground network of connections in the plant world, but in the bike version. He's been very active in encouraging new bike burbs and reinvigorating some that have gone quiet. And we've had a new one each year. Sunny Nook, which was a new burb in the previous financial year, has been active straight away with activities and media attention. And a big shout out to Soria, I hope I've got that name right. And we've also got some other new bike burbs coming on stream. So it's really exciting to see. And we've had a hui this year, as we always do, which was successful. We've also got Bike Valet, which has gone through some changes. We've had 46 Bike Valet events delivered in the last financial year. However, the funding from Auckland Council was finished, so this is now a fully commercial model. We need to get payment to be able to put them on in most cases. We did FIFA in 2023, which was great for our profile. We had another huge year at Big Gay Art, and I accompanied Angie when we went to talk to Eden Park about running the Bike Valet for Coldplay, and it was very exciting to hear that the reason that was happening was because Coldplay themselves wanted green initiatives around their concert. So those kind of things will change the game. Of course, Angie has now gone off to the UK and Phoebe is now taking over Bike Valet. And inquiries are still coming, so that's really great. Bike to Sport has also had its funding disestablished, and we remain on the lookout just in ways to support engaged sports clubs to set up their own programs. Phoebe's also in charge of volunteers, which was a project built by Angie and now being pedalled with lots of energy by Phoebe. We're now in the position where we can expand our capacity by calling out for people for particular projects in their areas of interest. Another initiative this year, Love Your Path, started this year. I'm beginning to show you the pictures, so let me just take a break. This is Bike Kingsland having a progressive dinner. So that's a burb activity right there. Bike valet at the Avondale Open Streets. That was Future, which was also a really well-attended event across a huge area of cycle paths out by Avondale. And I think that's Big Gay Art. Love Your Path, so that's a couple of volunteers, Kate and Roger there on the path. And we've had quite a few of those events, so that's wonderful. The other new addition to our crew is Sue, just there in the green. And Sue's taken over from Charmaine just at the end of the financial year. Charmaine continues to work enthusiastically in the advocacy space with a local focus and mentoring her teenage son to get politically involved, which is awesome work. Meanwhile, Sue has leapt into the role, bringing past NFP experience and an absolute determination to generate change, inspired by her own young family. Expect a more visible media presence and lots of activity on our social media and blogs, already demonstrated by a successful Biketober. Sue has also put her hand up to raise membership numbers and ensure we deliver as best as we can to diverse expectations of our member base. The crew are our daily interface with membership, partners, agencies, volunteers, bike riders, community organisations, and the people of Auckland. They set the tone, build the culture, and do the work. In describing how I see the crew right now, I'm choosing 3 words: cohesive, empowered, and energised. And I would like to publicly commend Fian for rising to the challenge of the CBO role just on 2 years ago. It's been amazing to watch them grow and develop as a leader, advocate, and capable fundraiser. And they haven't been afraid to bring together a quality team of well-skilled people to help carry out the mahi. I look forward to seeing the wonderful things I know you will all achieve as a team in the future. To close, we sometimes think nothing ever changes. And we were fortunate to have Jeanette Sadiq Khan visit this year, 10 years after her first visit to Auckland, to tell us otherwise. We were lucky to join her on a ride around the central city, organised by Pippa and Jessica, and her assessment of our cycleways was there's been lots of change and improvement, Quay Street and K Road getting particular positive feedback. Things are changing and will change. Riding bikes is gaining popularity and credibility. It might not happen in the time frame and in the way we hope it will, but it will happen. So this is the last picture here. Who is our next speaker? Carol's going to come up and give her much appreciated infrastructure update.
That's nice, isn't it? Buttons. Kia ora, I'm Carol. Some of you will remember I did this chat last year. Some of what I'm going to say is a follow-on from last year. I hope not to repeat myself too much, and I will also include a project which I forgot last year. Just so you know, this email address goes to Phoebe, and Phoebe will then disseminate to whoever needs to see it. The infrastructure group is a group of volunteers. Wave at me if you're in the infrastructure group. I see 2, 3, 4. Yay! We do a lot of stuff online. We're trying to have more physical meetings. So if anyone's interested in being part of the infrastructure group, you don't have to be an engineer. I'm an illustrator. Well, and you don't have to commit your whole life to it. if you're interested in, if you want to know about a thing that might be happening in your area or a thing that's not happening in your area, that's also a good email address. So that's our first point of contact. Shut up, Carol. All right. I'm going to go through the city in areas. I'm not going to talk about everything because otherwise I'd be here for hours. Hopefully I don't spend too long. Number one, let's go to the city centre. So I'm going to talk about stuff that was finished this year, stuff which is happening, stuff which is happening in the near future. So this has been finished in the last year. This is the Waihorotiu path down Queen Street. A lot of you will have seen this or ridden on it. It's finished now. The last bit was about this time last year. They finished the bottom end of that. So this is Karangahape Station and Pitt Street, which is happening at the moment. You'll know about the CRL. All those stations are being built. The station building is now uncovered, so it's quite nice to go and look at it. The picture on, not very good at left and right, that's Mercury Lane. So the station's down at the bottom. This has been, this was designed as a pedestrian-only space, and some local businesses and residents were nervous about it. So the decision about this shared space, or this decision is going to be that it's a shared space until the station officially opens, at which point they'll revisit that decision. So if any of you are wondering about that, there may be vehicles on that space when it first opens. Yes, yeah, it's going to be hopefully very slow and not very many vehicles. On the left, that little map, that I've probably got, no, I don't know. The red bits are cycle lanes going up Pitt Street, and down at the bottom, Canada Street. They're gonna kind of formalise some of that stuff that's been happening down there. This is the state of Pitt Street, or some of Pitt Street at the moment. So you might have been avoiding that area, which is understandable, but you can see it sort of appearing. That whole project for the station precinct will be supposed to be complete October 2025. Next, Victoria Street to Hanoa. So that goes the length of Victoria Street all the way up to the park. Parts are complete. So this is a direct quote. From November 2024, sections of the street will begin opening to the public. So this is down, you'll probably see where this is. This is down on the junction of Queen Street, and you can see the bike lane tantalisingly before you with some planter boxes in it. My hope is they're going to move those planter boxes and we can start using bits of that. I guess once they've formalised another end so people don't get stuck in roadworks. So that's imminent. Hooray. The Strand. So stage 1 is set down for late 2024, early 2025. Stage 1 is the road. Stage 2 is the shared path. I can't tell you when that's going to happen. You just have to, that's moving along. So now we're getting to the isthmus, that central bit. So this is something that was completed this year, Ngāpipi Bridge, and I wanted to show you this because to remind you that Bike Auckland campaigned for better after the initial design in 2017, which didn't include bridge widening. So at this point, it would have gone back down to a shared path. So we're pretty happy with that outcome. If you've been on that lately, it's nice and smooth and no cones, and hooray! Going further out that way, we've got the Glen Innes to Tamaki Drive path. So I've marked a couple of bits in there. The pink lines are the things that are complete. This big green line is Ngāpipi Road, which currently, if you know that bit, is an interim cycleway using shared path and a little bit of protection, and it's a bit funny at one end. So the project is supposed to be a new path, some of it going around boardwalk around the coast rather than on the road. So it's quite a big project. It's currently out to tender, and that is the thing that establishes the cost. If the cost is too high, it may not proceed. And I've written in my notes in capitals, sad face. I can't tell you much more about that. We're just going to have to see what the cost comes in at. The other thing on this map is this tiny little bit of green, which is the Gowing Drive connection. It connects one piece, the other side of the railway, connects a whole lot of other housing. Despite lots of community and local board support, it's been delayed again until after 2027, so after the next round of budget stuff. So that's really disappointing, but let's not forget about Gowing Drive. Going back out, further out that way, so the other end of the Glen Innes to Tamaki Drive path, we get to Glen Innes. So I talked about some of this last year, but the colours have changed. So the purple bits on this map are stuff they've finished. Taniwha Street I talked about last year. The pink stuff is happening now, which I think is only really the roundabout and the little bit through the centre of town. That's happening now, but then the next bits are going to be done in 2025, and that's the blue bits. So that's Merton Road, Apirana Ave and Line Road. So that will be really great when it's complete. As well on this map, you can see a little green line that I've drawn in. So as well as Glen Innes to Tamaki Drive, which is Auckland Transport, the Maungatia Tamaki Local Board is upgrading the path through Eastview Reserve. That's the topmost green bit, which connects with Taniwha Reserve, which is the smaller bottommost green bit. The bike hub is in Maybury Reserve, so it's just at the end of one end of that path. So that'll be a nice extra way for people to get around that area. Oh, look at this. Who's seen this before? Not me. Maungarai connection. This is in Panmure. So this is Eki Panuku. The construction is scheduled for 2025, next year, between Maungarai, Mount Wellington and Panmure Town Centre. This is the render they've put in. Looks nice. This is where it's going to go. So from the bottom of Maungarai through then past the station, almost through to Panmure Town Centre. Ultimately, it will form part of the Tamaki Loop, which goes down to Panmure Basin and up the coast of the Tamaki River and then back round to Point England. So it will be part of that. So that'll be quite exciting. Let's watch that space. And this is the one I famously forgot last year. Westmere, Point Chev, Meola Road, Garnet Road. This project, which joins, so cycle lanes up Point Chev Road, new cycleway, new road rebuild along Meola Road, and a little bit into Westmere on Garnet Road. It's almost finished. The finishing date is supposed to be mid-2025. I heard a rumour that they're trying to finish it early. On the left, if you haven't been up there, it's a nice. It's nice to have a look around. So on the left, that's Meola Road, where they rebuilt the road completely because it was disappearing into the old trash heap. So a two-way cycle lane. They've taken parking off the road, and Bike Point Chev and Crank ran Bike to Football for 3 Saturdays in a row in September, and they had 1,061 bikes parked over those 3 weeks. So that was an activation to help people understand how the cycleway was working. On the right-hand side, that's Point Chev Road. There's still lots of cones going into Garnet Road, but bits of it are cyclable. It's not entirely finished, but you can kind of go and have a look. And they've got lots of new tree planting along Point Chev Road, which will be nice. Oh, and I've got a timeline. So we're there. Look, we're there. So the next bit, Meola Road, basically nearly finished. Point Chev Road and Garnet Road have got some extra bits and pieces to do. And if you've tried to drive around there, it's awful. Don't. Go on your bike. Hopefully the pain will be worth it for the residents and the businesses around there eventually. So coming back through to Great North Road. Who cheered? Somebody? Delayed. Wait. Construction now expected to be late 2024. That's nearly now. Through to late 2025 or early 2026. So this is one that's been backwards and forwards a lot, but it's happening. They've done what they were doing last year when I talked about this was a lot of investigation works and a lot of sort of the boring stuff that you don't see. Hopefully this next year we'll see more exciting stuff. And then Carrington Road, there's a few bits to talk about along here. So Carrington Road joins Mount Albert with Point Chev, and it should join into Point Chev cycle lanes. So this year, AT has been consulting a lot about what to do along Point Chev Road. Because of the old Unitech site having a big housing development on it, there's going to be lots more residents, and they needed to do something with the road. So that was kind of local, except that the Northwestern Cycleway has a really important crossing point on Carrington Road, and so we got lots of you guys involved in asking for the crossing there not to be flattened. They are going to move it, and they were going to put it on a raised table, and then the instructions came that we don't do raised tables anymore. So they said, well, we don't need to put that raised table in, and we all went, yes you do. So we've watched this space. They did get a lot of feedback back from cyclists saying they wanted a raised table, also from other road users saying they wanted to keep the raised table. Construction of that project is supposed to be 2025 to 2026, so hopefully it will be starting sometime next year. One part of Carrington Road, and I wanted to use this one. I wanted to use this as an example of a really small thing that can make a big difference. This is the overbridge at Mount Albert Station, and this has been changed, so we've got after and before. This has been changed because they were doing a series of pedestrian crossings across railways, closure of those pedestrian-only ways. That's partly to do with CRL having more frequent and faster trains. And one of those, which was just parallel to this, was used a lot by foot traffic and cycle traffic to access from Mount Albert through to New North Road without having to go on this bridge, which is kind of unpleasant. That you can see on that picture, there was a painted cycle lane and quite a big, quite a high footpath with a railing, so there was nowhere to go. If you got squeezed on that cycle lane, it was awful. And on the other side, there was a little skinny painted cycle lane. And they told us every time we said, can you make that better? They'd say, there isn't space. We can't do it. There isn't space. But because they moved this crossing, or they closed the pedestrian crossing, and it was used by walking school buses, the feedback was, you can't close it until you do something about the bridge. And suddenly they found that they could do something about the bridge. So what they've done is they raised the cycleway to the level of the footpath. So it's technically probably a shared path, but feet tend to stick to one side and bikes to the other. It feels like there's much more space for everybody. And on the other side, they've got some rubber bumpers. So they can do things. Squeaky wheel, be the squeaky wheel. Again, along that road, we've got the Wairakā precinct, which is ex-Unitech. This is in progress. You'll see apartment blocks and things going up. This is a new bit of cycle lane. If you have a look at that plan, the blue bits are the main roads, and as far as I understand it, all the roads are going to look like this one. So this is Farm Road, which is the middle one of those horizontal spikes. And it's open. You can get through there down to down to the Waterview path. The my green drawing bits on there is the Northwestern and the Waterview path. So you can see how those roads are going to join into that. They're making quite fast progress on those roads. So hopefully, or potentially, those roads will be open before the whole development is open. And that's going to be quite a useful way to get from Waterview to the Northwestern. All right, now we're going north. I've just got a couple of three things in the north. Milldale to Millwater / Silverdale Bridge. Milldale is a very new suburb, very disconnected from the rest of Silverdale and Millwater by the motorway, and so they've put in a new bridge at the bottom of it, so it's an extra way in and out. And that bridge has got separated walking and cycling. Yay! That's opening early next year, apparently. So this is just another example of they can do it if they really want to. Hobsonville Road, cycle connection. So this goes from Hobsonville to Westgate along what used to be the main road. So there's lots of space. It's a little bit like Upper Harbour Drive, in that it was part of that main road. It was supposed to start in late 2024, which is now. Budget cuts may have had some impact. And it may be that those concrete Tim Tams have been swapped for rubber ones in some cases. Has anyone seen progress along Upper Harbour Drive yet? Not one bit. Okay. Okay, we will keep an eye on that. Next one, so that's what their renders are like. It may not be entirely like that. Rosedale Busway Station. So this is a new busway station between Constellation and Albany. In this station, they're not building a park and ride, so they have to provide other ways for people to get there. One of them is supposed to be walking and cycling, and this is a render for the precinct, which would be nice. Construction starts late 2024. The station's opening 2027. My guess is they'll do a lot of stuff before they get to this. But this is what you should be expecting. And here's a nice one to finish with the north. This is Te Ara Awataha. It's a daylighted stream. So there's a few of these in my presentation. A bit like Te Auaunga in Mount Roskill. I think when it's finished, it will look quite like that. It goes round Northcote Town Centre. That circle bit is the bit that they're starting on now. It's going to, late next year. I can't tell you much about it except that there are bits that are finished and they look like this. So it's a nice shared path. It's not for zooming. It's for, getting from one place to another, and it's got nice bits along it. Waiheke. I didn't talk about Waiheke last year. Let's talk about Waiheke. Hello, Vibeka. Last year, Waiheke got some sharrows through Oniroa and Surfdale village centres. No booing. We like sharrows in the right place. Those two centres were already 30 kilometres an hour, so it really just reminds drivers that they are going to be expecting to see bikes, and it reminds bikes that they are important. So sharrows are not the ideal bike infrastructure, but in some cases they can be a tiny little bit of help. The other side of this slide is hopefully next year they're going to put in gates at these two crosses around the Esplanade. So the Esplanade is a gravelly road, but it's still open to cars. If you close that, it's like a massive modal filter. So cars won't be able to use that road. Bikes can use that road, and it's a really good way to get from Blackpool to Surfdale, or Oniroa to Surfdale, and where the cars will then have to go back up to the main road, which is what they're supposed to be doing. So that'll be nice, and quite a small intervention, really. It's just two gates. East, we're going east. The real big project out east is the Eastern Busway, of course, which is huge, takes a long time. A whole bit of it is done. The next bit they're working on is down Tirako Drive from Pakuranga to Botany. This is the existing bit, so the rest of it, in theory, looks like this. We have a brown versus brown spat this year, which, because of the fuel tax cuts, Wayne Brown said, we can't build the Botany interchange. And Simeon Brown went, but what? So it has been dropped from Auckland Council's long-term plan. So we'll see what happens with that. I mean, yeah. South. We've got a little one here. This is a Streets for People trial that's been happening this year. So you can see this is Ngaho Mangere Bridge at this end of the plan. And this year they've had two-way cycle lanes along here, just some pop-up protection. They're changing that now before Christmas to one way on each side, which has come from feedback, which is nice. So that little bit is the purple piece at the top, SP, Streets for People. The other bit that I want to talk about now is Robertson Road, which is also marked with an SP, this little blue bit. This was the other part of the trial they did. So pop-up protection along Robertson Road, which was awful, goes next to Centre Park where Mr T has his workshop and bike hub. And that's trial has been really successful, so they're going to keep it. Hooray! Mangere West. So on this plan, the pink bits are the bits that I've just shown you. So this is moving across a bit. Mangere West cycling improvements. It's a similar sort of thing. Some pop-up funding. Simeon Brown, the regional fuel tax axing did affect the budget, but it was prioritised in the regional land transport plan. Thank you. So we're still optimistic about the funding. To quote, got it. We've got it. I'm getting the thumbs up from Fian because I quote, we plan to start construction in early 2025 pending funding approvals. But yes.
For the long-term plan, so all your wonderful advocacy, thank you to the council to get more funding for cycling through the long-term plan process after the central government underfunded. They chose to help us, so it is happening.
Great. Hurrah. So that's Mangere West. Keep your eye on the map. Mangere East. Oh no, not that one. No. Oh, that was Mangere West. That was Mangere West. MW. Thank you. Mangere East. There's MW. Mangere East is the rest of this orange stuff. So it joins in with that Mangere West path and the Central Park link that I just showed you. Where the Norrana Esplanade pops out at the top, if any of you have been around there, it spits you out into a giant road full of trucks. So that will be really great to improve that bit. On this map, they've marked really well, just checking that it's coming out. There's lots of schools and a big hospital along these paths. So this was going to make a big difference to the kids, but also all those people that work at the hospital. Yeah. Yeah. So it'll be really useful to be able to get people there. Manukau pop-up protection. I talked about this last year. This is now finished. There was a middle bit. Really, that's just this stuff, Tim Tams along a road, an existing cycle lane where there was no parking already. So that's... there's another bit. I missed a bit. Thank you. So still giant roads with lots of traffic and trucks, but at least you don't feel like they're going to run you over any minute.
Was it before?
It wasn't. Was, yeah. 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 So this is the pop-up stuff that I'm talking about is this where there was already a painted cycle lane and it was pretty easy because they didn't have to do any consultation about just putting some protection down there. So if you know any of those other ones, if you know of any painted cycle lanes where you think, oh, that needs protection, let us know because that may be something that we can start jumping up and down about. This one is the Manukau Cycling Network. So those That one I just told you, showed you, appears on there as part of number 3. But there's other bits through there as well. Mike, I've got a question for anyone who knows this. So the next was supposed to be improvements along a stretch of Great South Road, which is north to south on this map, providing a better connection to Papatoetoe. Is this on hold? I found somewhere online it says it's on hold, and then I couldn't find it again. Don't know. Yeah. So the last one I want to talk about almost the last one, South Tiakarata. So this is another daylighted stream, is another Ikipanaku project, and that joins up with that previous map. It goes from MIT and the station down through to the Botanic Gardens. So some of that stream path is already existing and it will be improved. That's at the gardens end, so that will be done in 2025, early 2025 apparently. And the render for that is lovely. Look at that. So that will be nice, and a really good way for people to get through that bit of South Auckland. Then we've got the continuation of the path along the southern motorway, so extending 4 kilometres south to Drury at the moment. The construction of that is underway. It will eventually go to Bombay, and KiwiRail and AT have proposed setting aside land to extend the path to Pukekohe eventually. I mean, that's going to be a long term, but it'd be interesting to see what happens with that. Then we go west. This is our last area. This is my area. Hooray! So what we've got is something that's been opened very recently. I rode on this yesterday. The Twin Streams path along Henderson Creek. Some of you will have been on there. It's narrow. It was unlit, and bits of it are being improved. And the last bit to be improved just now, it's opened, not officially yet, but we'll be there with bells on. Is the section from Central Park Drive to Tui Glen. It's great. It makes so much difference being this much wider, and it's lit. I've been through there in the dark before, and it's weird. So that'll be nice. There's another side path a bit further up the creek, which isn't on this map, that was an access way, muddy because there was no concrete, and they've just put a path in. That was Henderson Massey Local Board. Woo! Te Atatu Road, we've got 2 sides of Te Atatu Road, north in the peninsula and south. This is Te Atatu Peninsula, where, again, this pop-up protection happened. This is an existing cycle lane. They put some Tim Tams in. It's much better. I use this every day. It was also part of the bus and T2 project. So this is how this whole thing was designed. The bus and T2 project extends over the motorway to Te Atatu South. There's some improvements between the interchange and Edmonton Road, but from Edmonton Road through to Glendine, it's materially worse for cyclists because cyclists used to use the parking buffer, which was very underused, and now it's a T2, and so there's nowhere for the cyclists to go. There is, in some parts, a flush median, however. I'll be looking at that flush median. So, yay for Te Atatu Peninsula, boo for Te Atatu South. Royal Road improvements, here's another boo. This, so where the Northwestern Cycleway comes up to Royal Road, it crosses Royal Road and it goes down the motorway again, and they proposed making some safety improvements, which is great because it's a bit like a motorway up there anyway. We had a detailed design in December 2023. Then the ministerial directive removing raised crossings came in, and these 2 spots which are marked as raised crossings are now no longer going to be raised crossings. We made our views very clear on that. Kelston to Newlyn cycling improvements. This was quite recent. We did a lot of feedback on this because it's a really big project. It builds on Streets for People trials, which are currently underway. This is from outside St Leonard's Road School, so you can see some of the red build-outs and bits and bobs they've done there. I'll show you the map. So basically it uses low-cost infrastructure to enable more people to get basically to schools in Kelston and New Lynn. It's got 7 school catchments, and it allows you to avoid Great North Road. So you can see Great North Road coming through there, which is awful in a car, and I would never be on it on a bike. So this actually does, it's a little bit around the houses, but it's a really good way to get from Kelston to New Lynn, and also this other more northern bit for schools. 2025, we're getting the detailed design. 2026 onwards is construction. I'll just say funding cuts. I don't want to talk about it. And then the last one is the shiny one. This is a Tafo pathway. So this is going to eventually join the northwestern at Te Atatu with New Lynn. There's a lot of boardwalk. You'll see some of it here. And we've got funding. When I say we, I mean West Aucklanders. We've got funding for the bit from State Highway 16 to Roberts Field. And if you've been out that way, if you've been out on the Northwestern in the last few months, you can see the ramp. So this is a still from their videos. They've got really nice aerial videos. You should have a look. So it comes up here, it goes round the back of the boat club, and it goes on a big ramp up to the Northwestern at Te Atatu. So it's quite exciting because you can see that progress happening. There's still a lot to do at the bottom end, so don't expect it opening anytime soon. We're supposed to be going on a site visit quite soon, so we'll feedback about that. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is it from me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Carol. Always a popular instalment in the meeting. Now, last year we had our AGM on this day, and it's quite coincidental that it ended up being today, but also quite poignant as we have the Ghost Bike installation. But it is the World Day of Remembrance for Road Traffic Victims, and it's always commemorated on the third Sunday of November every year. It is a global event to remember the many millions who suffer through the impact of road deaths and injuries. On World Day, we too pay tribute to the dedicated emergency crews, police and medical professionals who deal daily with the traumatic aftermath of road crashes. Join us for a moment of silence to acknowledge everyone affected. Thank you, everyone. I'm now going to hand over to Patrick Morgan, who has flown up from Wellington to grace us with his presence today to talk about Cycle Action Network. Welcome, Patrick.
Kia ora, everyone. My name is Patrick Morgan and I work for you. So I work with Cycling Action Network. We're the national bike advocacy charity. I'm based in Wellington, but my job is to support bike advocacy around New Zealand. Why do we ride? Pippa, why do you ride? Give it to me in a couple of words.
I'm lazy.
Okay.
Door-to-door parking.
Door-to-door parking. Convenience, okay. Someone else, Lindsay, I talked to you earlier.
Freedom.
Freedom. Okay, what does that mean for you?
It's just being out here and just enjoying New Zealand, really.
Okay.
Being all over New Zealand on their bikes and yeah.
Great, freedom. Someone else that I haven't talked to.
Autonomy, which is similar to freedom, but not having to rely on anything else, anybody else, the trains, the buses, the non-existent, getting caught by traffic, letting it go. We want to go anyway.
You don't have to ask your mum for a ride when you want to go somewhere. Yeah. Okay, maybe one more over here. Yeah, please, Sue.
For the planet.
For the planet. What does that mean for you?
Clean air, it means being a good ancestor.
Yes. Okay, so we have lots of reasons to ride. I think there's a saying, if you want to travel fast, go by yourself. If you want to travel far, go together. We travel together. That's the point of Bike Auckland. It's the point of Cycling Action Network, that we travel together because we want to go far. We have reasons of our own for wanting to get around by bike, but we want to share those with our community, with our families, with our colleagues, with everyone in New Zealand. So that's why we have bike advocates, and I think the need will be here for a while. Here you go. So, CAN. Put your hand up if you've heard of CAN. Okay, thank you. We haven't been around for as long as Bike Auckland and its predecessors, but back in the 20th century, people thought there's a need to have national level advocacy in New Zealand. So volunteers from the main centres and throughout New Zealand got together and formed a national network of bike advocates. I'm a part-time employee there. I think around 30 hours a week is my job. And Richard, who hopefully most of you have met, has been delivering the Share the Road campaign on behalf of CAN for how many years, Richard?
2015.
Okay, great. That was a project funded mainly through New Zealand Transport Agency and also some commercial partners. CAN has a board of volunteers. Most of what CAN does is done by volunteers, just like us in the room here. Let me see. Here's our goals. It's the standard bike advocacy stuff. Safety, of course, is one of the main drivers, but also integrating cycling with the rest of the way transport works. So how do you get from one city to another? How do you get around town if you want to put your bike on a bus, for example? Very topical at the moment. So, in a simple sentence, CAN works with central government, business, and the community and our councils for a better cycling environment. A big part of my job is taking phone calls from news media. In the last couple of weeks, I think I've talked about bike racks on buses, about some idiot putting tacks in cycleways in Wellington, the tacker tax. Councils adding ramps to staircases to improve the inclusivity of how we get around our communities. Also about the impacts of government funding on various projects. And I think bike tourism as well. This is a campaign that we were working with Generation Zero in Wellington a few years ago, trying to make the point that protection is more than just paint. And we've heard from Carol that a lot of these painted cycleways have now been upgraded to physical protection. Just having paint on our skin is not adequate protection. That's why we focus on the need for protected and connected cycleways to enable more of us to get around by bike. Wellington's the capital, so it's a natural place for us to take our concerns to. Earlier this year, we had an event where we joined up with a coalition of transport, climate and health advocates to make the case for cycling. We do have political headwinds at the national level in Wellington. Headwinds don't last forever. And when you have a headwind, what do? You just, change down, dig in a bit, keep going, and keep making progress. Headwinds change, I've seen that. The other event is, again, focusing on what we just had a minute of silence for, is remembering the victims of traffic violence. I prefer to not call them accidents. They're really the consequence of a poor transport system. Just coming towards an end, how does CAN work with Bike Auckland? So it's not like a head office, district office relationship. It's a relationship based on trust and a conversation about where our strengths are at each end. I'm really in awe of what Bike Auckland is achieving. You're an amazing group of people, and if anyone said, you know what, we're going to make Auckland a biking city a few years ago, people would they'd find that really hard to believe. But you can see it with your own eyes around Auckland as the network gets connected and protected. It's enabling more and more people to get around by bike if they want to. So, I'd say we're stronger together. Just in closing, I want to talk about smoking. In 2003, someone came up with the idea that there's not going to be any more smoking in bars. We're just not going to have it. And what did people say at the time, Carol? What was it like then? Everything will close down. It'll be the death of hospitality. The sky will fall. Well, 20 years on, you don't hear that so much anymore. And I put to you, that's where we are with cycling, that we're in that part of the growth curve where there's pushback because we're making progress. The lesson there is that we stay focused, we stay on our mission, we don't seek to argue with naysayers, because we can never win by trying to convert or placate naysayers. We win by making our case, focusing on that, and making great arguments with data and stories to people in the middle who are persuadable. That's why we have bike advocates. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Patrick. I think you just echoed Jeanette Sadik-Khan, who said the same thing. You know you're making progress when there's a fight on your hands. Right, I'm going to ask Juan Pablo Espinosa to come and talk about the money.
Good afternoon, everyone. So today I will be presenting the FY24 performance for Bike Auckland. We're going to start for the income for FY24. So as we can see on the top chart, no numbers there. It's a funny one. So I have it here. So probably with the presentation, but when they probably posted for you guys, you will be able to see. So in the top left, we should have the FY23 actual. That is about 303K for income that we receive versus 383K that we receive for FY24. So it's about 79K higher than the previous year. This is done by a few initiatives. The first one was a better performance for Bike Ballet. So we do have a higher salary than previous years. So we are talking about around 35K for Bike Ballet. We also have grants that weren't recognized last year, so that means that for IT, so we have some money for IT for previous year projects that were delivered or accounted this financial year, which actually increase or help with that revenue. And we do have membership increase as well, so through and more advocacy project funding related to advocacy and bike birds. So, and those projects are inclusive cycling, tricycle, and cyclopath. And we can see in the bottom chart how the revenue allocation is allocated by business unit. So we sort of see that advocacy and admin are related to sort of project funding. We have AT that is for mostly bike birds, we have communication that is done by sponsorship and membership. And the event ballet, which you have a little bit of funding for IT and mostly covered by the bike ballet sales. Moving on, we have what we spend that money that we receive. So we usually classify this in 3 groups. So we have the service delivery cost, the people cost, and the administration cost. If we look at the total for those groups against the prior financial year, so we can see that we have an increase in about 20K, but when we look at the people section, we can see that 33K of that surplus is money that we have spent in our funnel. So it's a big work that Paul Shortland was doing on moving the crew for the contractor side to a more employee, sort of like, forgot the word. Moving the part of the payroll of Bike Auckland, so entitled to things like holidays, to ACC, holidays and those sort of stuff. So that's a way for us to support and be a better employee. We also change, we will look operational costs. We can see on the delivery cost that is a decrease on those. That's a better way for us to deliver the projects, but it's also a change on the way that the umbrella funded that was associated with expense change. So internally, we move those expenses costs that came from the umbrella to the P&L so that we reduce the overall amount of the expenses that we have for this financial year. And a slightly lower administration cost, that means things that we use for operate. Our final position, so we were expecting this year a deficit due to lower funding for AT, but we actually have a surplus. The surplus, we just see in the income, was done by the amazing job that the crew did with Bike Ballet, the project and the funding side, so the CBO being able to collect more funds and fund some of the projects that we work within the financial year. And just to relate it to the balance sheet, it's not much change. It's basically quite similar to what we report on the last financial year. We have an addition for an 16 purchase for a bike trailer for Bike Ballet. And yeah, and again, just the umbrella funding change from the expenses side to the P&L. If anyone have any question, happy to receive any question by phone or email. But thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Juan. Now, we don't have anything on the agenda for general business. If anyone has anything, put your hand up now, or we'll just quickly move on through. Now we are ready for the formal part where we elect officers. I just want to say a little bit beforehand about our new structure. When Barb Cuthbert left, that's when we rearranged the structure of Bike Auckland to have a board, which is all voluntary. And when I became chair, despite the fact that I became chair being inspired by a dream, I did actually take that responsibility very seriously, and I actually went and joined the IOD, Institute of Directors, the IOD, and did a residential course to make sure I understood the governance, how it should work, our responsibilities, and that we were going to meet the appropriate standard of governance for a community organisation. I was also fortunate to be chosen for a mentoring program this year, also run by the IOD, and they selected 25 chairs of not-for-profits and around New Zealand and assigned a mentor, and we also had some training and formal meetings on site talking about the challenges of being a chair in this space. My mentor has helped me really address challenges, determine priorities, and encourage me that we are on the right track. We still have plenty of work to do, and I suspect it's an ongoing journey rather than a destination. But I have more direction about what is required, why it is required, and how it's intended to serve the organisation. The big piece of governance work coming up in the next year will be a rewrite of the Bike Auckland rules. This has come about by a new act, the Incorporated Societies Act 2022, and effectively our constitution will have to change to meet new requirements that are now under the Act as it stands. So we'll be starting a consultation process with members starting next year, and we want to have those rules ready by the next AGM. And just to reiterate, the legal responsibilities when you join a board, even if it's a not-for-profit, Section 54, you must act in good faith and in what the officer believes is the best interests of the society. And Section 57, exercise the care and diligence and skill that a reasonable officer would exercise in the same circumstances. So, there are legal responsibilities even if you are a volunteer. I'm going to hand over this part of the meeting to Duncan, which the next part is electing the different board roles, and we normally focus on the chair first. I don't believe there are any other nominations rather than the people standing, but if you do have a nomination, call it out now, and I'll pass over to Duncan.
Are there any further nominations for chair anyone would like to put forward? Is it the will of the meeting that Karen Horman be duly elected chair for the next season? Congratulations, Karen. My official capacity in this meeting is now complete.
And given we don't have any other nominations, just before I move on to the other elections, I just want to introduce our Acting Secretary, Claire. Unfortunately, she couldn't be here today. She joined the board earlier in the year as an observer, and she has now acquiesced to come as Acting Secretary and put her name forward to be Secretary this time round. So some of you may not have met her. She's very enthusiastic, and we met through her biking project for her Masters, and we're very much enjoying having her energy on the board. I would like to propose that for the 3 remaining roles, if people don't object, and you're welcome to object, that we just consider them all together and say you're happy to elect all 3 of them into the roles. Otherwise, I'm left with not enough people. So if you could all just let me know if you're in favour of that suggestion. And you happily vote on Duncan, Juan and Claire in the roles. Thank you very much. Are you able to record that, please, Stephen? Thanks. Now, we do give out community awards, and this year we have one, and I'd like to invite Roger to come up and shake my hand. We don't have the certificate here today, but I met Roger, I'm pretty sure it was Avondale Open Streets that I met you with your fish bike. And Roger has been such an enthusiastic volunteer. He's really reinvigorated the eastern suburbs with activities, and everyone's having a lot of fun, and you were a very popular choice to get this award. So thank you, Roger.
I'd like to thank Bike Auckland and Tiva and Thean and all the people who have helped me, and the other people in the Bike Eastern Suburbs community who've turned up and shown some enthusiasm to get things rolling. But
Awesome.
thank you.
Thank you, Roger. So, to close the meeting, ki te kotahi te kokaho ka whāti, ki te kapuia I kore e whāti. When we stand alone, we are vulnerable, but together we are unbreakable. So I now declare the meeting closed. I'd like to make a special thanks to Cappuccino and to Duncan for doing all of this, which will mean that we actually have a video of the meeting and we'll be able to post that online later. And we're all going to go on a bike ride now. Yay! That's the most fun bit. So thank you very much, everyone, today.